All right, to this story now. Former President Thabo Mbeki says transactional diplomacy by the United States should challenge South Africa and the continent to reflect more deeply about their role in an ever-changing world where power continues to shift. He delivered the keynote address at the inaugural Aziz Pahad Peace, Security and Human Rights Annual Lecture, which took place at the International Relations Department's headquarters in Pretoria this morning. Newzroom Afrika's Ziyanda Ngcobo has more.
Former President Thabo Mbeki says the task of reshaping how South Africa interacts with countries like the United States will not be easy, with various factors to be considered. This includes how diplomacy has become increasingly transactional under Donald Trump's administration, debates around whether or not the US is still an economic superpower, and if this is not the case anymore, where does this leave our country and the rest of the continent?
Does DIRCO understand the world in which it engages international relations for the people of South Africa? Does it have the internal capacity to develop this understanding? And in practice, what is done practically to get this understanding?
In remembering Aziz Pahad, Mbeki recalled the role he played in trying to thwart conflicts such as the invasion of Iraq in 2003 by the US. He formed part of a team that met with the then President Saddam Hussein to confirm whether indeed there were weapons of mass destruction in that country. Pahad at the time confirmed they didn't exist and relayed the message to the United Nations Security Council in an effort to de-escalate an already tense relationship. Mbeki says Pahad would have been shocked by Trump's executive orders against South Africa after spending most of his diplomatic life explaining the country's transformative policies after apartheid.
It is obvious that an important part of what is in the best interest of Africa is its correct and timely positioning in the evolving multipolar world, so that the emerging global order places our continent in a better position to address its many challenges of the eradication of poverty and underdevelopment, of silencing the guns, of ensuring that the people govern and ending Africa's international marginalization. The serious challenge in this regard is that there is no evidence or sign anywhere that Africa's political and intellectual leadership is not only conscious of the need to define our continent's place in the emerging multipolar world, but is ready to act on this urgent matter.
On the continued fragmentation of the global political and economic system, ongoing conflicts in Africa, the Middle East and the rest of the world, Pahad's wife says her husband would have told us that these weren't unforeseen events. On the contrary, the signs were always there, and now humanity faces unprecedented uncertainty.
He warned us about the growing threats to regional and international peace and security, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, the growth of populist political and economic nationalism and anti-democratic tendencies, the disregard of international law with impunity, the fundamental weakening of multilateral institutions, and the growing influence of the military-industrial complex.
The International Relations Minister says it's dishonest for some parties within the Government of National Unity to pretend that all was well during the democratic transition. He says two countries were inherited, one which was white and prosperous, while the other was black and divided without any economic agenda.
It is therefore shocking that the DA will argue that we are just implementing ANC policy in foreign affairs, when they have agreed to the above in the statement of intent, and it is what we continue to implement. The Government of National Unity does not supersede the Constitution. The statement of intent itself commits itself to constitutionalism. It can't be that when we implement what is in the Constitution, in the Foreign Services Act, National Interest Document, and the National Development Plan, we are said to be acting unilaterally.
Pahad, who was otherwise referred to as the insurgent diplomat, has been remembered for his conviction and unwavering commitment to the principles of Ubuntu. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Ziyanda Ngcobo at the OR Tambo building in Tshwane.